Hello Cruising World, Mick the Suit Guy with you. Welcome to week 2 of my weekly tips. I just started last week. Hope you found that helpful. I forgot to add last week. I would love to get any tips from you. So if you want me to include any of your tips on these videos for everybody, email them to me. I'll give you a shout out. The more the merrier. Just make them sensible. That's all I'm saying. No politics, no religion, no anti this, no anti that. Just general tips about cruising a carnival that will help the average cruiser. May not know too much about it. Doesn't sometimes matter how obvious it may seem. The more obvious, the less known sometimes. So any tips you want to send me, send them my way. I'll give you a shout out, put you on one of my future videos. Got a lot of other things planned coming up on these videos too. So you'll find that out over the next few weeks. Anyway, I have 3 tips for you this week. That is 3. So step aside because here they come. 3 tips for Monday. All right, 3 tips for a Monday this week. Number 1, cabin selection. I would always recommend before you commit to a cabin, have a look at the deck plan and make sure you're not above or below or to the side of anything that would potentially be very noisy and interfere with your enjoyment of your cruise. What do I mean by that? Well, I would try and avoid being above or below things like the Lido deck where there can be a lot of noise when they're moving chairs around, having events up there, above the restaurant, above the casino, things like that. It may not bother you. If it doesn't bother you, ignore me. But if that would potentially bother you, check it out. Also, if you think you might be a bit seasick or anything, I would potentially try and avoid being either too high up on the ship, too close to the front, too close to the back. So a cabin in the middle is probably ideal on one of the middle decks. If you look at this particular ship you've been looking at since I've started talking here, this is the Carnival Legend, and you'll see in the middle there, they basically have 5 decks of just cabins. So I would recommend anything on the middle 3, which is deck 5, 6, and 7 on here, the upper, the Empress, and the Veranda. You can look at any of those, you know. That's what I would recommend. But it's not always the same for all ships. You have to look at each one. And you can find these by going online or going on Carnival's website and selecting the full deck plan. If you look at a ship like this one, this is the Carnival Valor, you'll see on this one, there's only 3 of those decks in the middle. So I'd really only recommend doing deck 7, which is the Empress, that has cabins above and below it. All the other decks, pretty much, apart from deck 1, but then you're right by the water, which if you like it, you like it. Wouldn't be my personal choice, but everybody's different. This way you're above cabins on deck 7. If you're on the other decks, you're above, like, you know, you can see all sorts of things there. Lido deck, you know, and all that good stuff, same as I said before. But unlike the Legend, there's only 3 decks, not 5. You could look at another ship here like the Panorama, which has more decks, and they have 4 decks between. So you would look at deck 7 and 8, you would think that would be ideal, but take a closer look to deck 7 and 8 and you'll see they have the Sky Zone, which is basically a trampoline area, and at night they sometimes have like discos and stuff like that in there, so potentially could be noisy. So if that's the sort of thing that might bother you, make sure you don't get a cabin too close to the Sky Zone. So that's my simple tip for selecting a cabin. Look it up online, look at the deck plans, and make sure if you're worried in any way about it, you are not above or below any action, as it were. And if you're potentially seasick, don't go too high, don't go too far to the front, don't go too far to the back, and check that there's only cabins above and below you. Tip number 2 would be on checking in as soon as possible for your cruise, and I'll explain why after I show you how you would do it. So you would basically, the best way to do it is to go to your account on Carnival, look up your cruise. This is one of my cruises. It's on the Carnival Splendor. I'm doing a 7-day for Alaska in August. And I will click on the planner across the top middle there. You see it's kind of highlighted in blue. I clicked on planner and it's going to show me a before you go my to-do list. I've already done my vaccination survey, and above that it's going to show me when I can do my online check-in. So I recommend you do it as soon as possible. This says it's available on July 24th, 2022. So it's going to be at 1 minute past midnight, as it were, on that date that you can start checking in. However, if you're on the West Coast, you can check in at 9 p.m. the night before because it goes to Eastern time, or 9:01, whatever, the night before. So there's a little bit of a trick for you. If you're on the West Coast, you don't have to wait until that date. You can check in at 9 p.m. the day before. Just a quick asides, as it were, if you are Sweet, Diamond, or Platinum, you'll get to check in on July 24th on this one. If you're Gold, Red, or Blue, you will get to check in on July 26th, I believe it is, a couple of days later. So why do you check in so early? Well, the goal is when you get your boarding pass, and I'm showing you that right here, to get that boarding zone A01. or as close to that as possible. The earlier the boarding zone, the sooner you are going to get on the ship. When you get this boarding pass, that arrival appointment on the left there is not the time you're going to get on the ship. It's the time you can get into the embarkation area and you can do all of your checking in and stuff like that. But then you're going to sit in that area and wait until your boarding zone is called. So a lot of people think that's the time you get on the ship. It is not. It's the time you're allowed in the building, and you get on the ship by the boarding zone. And then on the right, it shows you the final boarding time. So if your goal is to get on the ship as soon as possible, your goal should be to check in as soon as possible. That is tip number 2. Tip number 3 for you this week. There's a thing you may not be aware of. I have videos on all of these, longer videos, but it's called MenuMate, which is where you can go if you have any food allergies, you need a gluten-free diet for the week or whatever you want. There is this thing called MenuMate. You'll typically find it up on the Lido marketplace area. There'll be somebody there and they will help you establish yourself or work on a menu for you for the whole week. But don't let me tell you how to do it. Listen to the wonderful Sanji and she will tell you how it's done.
How will I explain? So if you have any kind of allergies, all the hostess will be here in the front, and then you can tell what allergies you have, and then they can help you out and they can talk to the chefs so that the chefs can find something for you, can prepare it for you, whatever allergies you have. Okay, so you don't need to worry about anything.
There you go, the wonderful Sanji explaining MenuMate. So that's tip number 3. If you have food allergies of any description, go find MenuMate, you can see it. So there you have 3 tips for the week. Number 1, check your cabin location before you book. Number 2, check in as soon as you possibly can if you want to get on the ship as soon as possible. And number 3, if you have any food allergies, find MenuMate. Hope that helped. Same time next week. Back to you, Suit Guy. 3 tips for Monday. Don't forget, as I said earlier, if you want to send me some of your tips, email them to me. I'd love to get them. I'll learn something, guaranteed. Subscribe, as always. And again, tips or questions, emails coming up at the end of this. Subscribe to my Facebook page. Hopefully I can help you make your cruise a little bit better. And you can help me too. So, yeah, hope those tips were helpful. More to come next week. Possibly a big surprise next week. I'll let you know next week. See you later, Cruising World. Any questions? Email me anytime. cruisingsuitguy@gmail.com. I promise I'll reply as soon as possible. Want to book a cruise or any type of travel? We are travel agents. Check out our site, elitetravelconnection.com, or email me, mick@elitetravelconnection.com. We are here for you. Finally, subscribe, please. Pretty please. You know you want to. Go on. I won't beg you. Okay, I'm begging. Please. Subscribe. Thank you.